The Glyn Johns technique is crazy popular for recording drums. It's not exactly a modern approach, but if you're going for that Led Zeppelin classic rock drum sound, it's a must-have in your arsenal. There's tons of variations on it. I'm not really here today to argue about which variation is correct. After all, Glyn Johns is on YouTube being interviewed on how to do the technique. So it's not even something we have to address. But no matter what variation you use, whether you use a snare mic, whether you measure the kick mic just like you do the overheads and all these other crazy variations, there is one major fault. I haven't seen anybody address this fault, and it really could be a huge Achilles heel, just a single factor that completely pulls down and makes your drum sound fall apart. It's not a factor that I've seen anybody else talk about. I'd like to talk about it with you no matter what version of the Glyn Johns recording technique that you use for recording drums. Well, hey, my name is Ryan, and you're watching Creative Sound Lab, a weekly video show with recording tips, pointers, and off-the-wall recording tricks. Well, what is the big deal? What's my big secret about the Glyn Johns technique? Really, it has to do with the physics of drums. Actually the physics of cymbals. Okay, we know the drums work. We know that there's some phasing issues. That's not actually what I'm talking about today. We do try to make sure that the snare is in phase, and we kind of just, take the others as collateral damage. But really, we're not talking about the phasing of the drums. We're actually talking about the actual physics of the instrument, the physics of the cymbals. Okay, so if you look on any average kit, you see that you have basically a ride cymbal, you have a couple crashes. Usually there's some cymbals over to that drummer's right side of the kit, okay? Right next to where we put that lower microphone. So what happens is there's actually sound radiating out of that cymbal in a pattern, just like a polar pattern of a microphone. So what's happening is that there's a null, and there's a kind of a sweet spot within any cymbal that you record. Usually the sweet spot is somewhere, about 45 degrees or so. You can actually tune the sound of your cymbals by where you place the mic. And we actually do have an episode on tuning the sound of your cymbals. I'll put a link to that episode at the end of this video. And when it's available, you can click on it and watch it. Now, cymbals typically radiate about at an angle, maybe 45, 35. It's kind of a diagonal angle out from the edge. Where cymbals do not radiate is the key. And this is what will really mess up your recordings when you're using the Glyn Johns method. Because right at the edge, just like a knife, it just cuts through the air straight out from the edge of the cymbal. There is minimal sound coming out of that cymbal. Okay, so as the edge is swinging back and forth, up and down, over the line of sight of that microphone is actually getting less cymbal, and then all of a sudden it's getting blasted with cymbal. Put that together with an overhead mic that has much more blended tone out of the kit. All of a sudden you have cymbals that are weaker on one mic and continuous on the other, and the cymbal appears to jump across the stereo image. So that was just an exaggeration of the type of sounds I'm trying to point out to your ears. You know, as we get real close to the cymbal, the effect gets worse. And really, that's actually a pretty cool sound. So I hope you enjoy that one. That's kind of a bonus for this episode. It's just something really cool, a really cool sound you can get out of cymbals by recording them super close individually. Now, that's the type of sound I'm trying to point out to your ears. It's a little more subtle in the traditional Glyn Johns method, where the microphone is 18 inches out from that cymbal, kind of hovering over this floor tom. Now, you've heard lots about this problem today, but I'd really like to demonstrate a solution, because, who would I be if I don't at least give you one? So my solution would be to, instead of using the more traditional Glyn Johns, is to really use kind of a hybrid, one that was described in an issue of Tape Op several years ago, Tape Op magazine. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact episode, but it was basically one that had kind of an over-the-shoulder mic instead of over-the-floor tom mic. And what this was doing is this was kind of coming almost on the opposite side of the hi-hat. So the body of the drummer, in a way, kind of blocks the hi-hat from this mic, but it's still kind of getting the kit from two directions. It's adding a little bit more distance, but most importantly, it's raising up this mic to be out of the danger zone of this crazy, knoll of the cymbal. So what this does is it gets a lot more even sound. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that for you, just kind of show you what this new setup sounds like. This is really kind of my preferred setup if I'm using Glyn Johns, is something a little bit higher. If I scoot this mic even back a little bit, then I would, of course, adjust the overhead as well so that they're equidistant from that snare. This mic here you can ignore. It's not a part of the drum sound that I'll be showing you today. This is just for my dialogue for the purpose of talking to the camera. So check this out. Okay, so that's just one way I would, kind of approach the Glyn Johns method. And you, I'm sure, have multiple ways of doing it. You've tried different things. Of course, there's an optional snare mic that you can throw in too. Glyn Johns says that sometimes he would add it, sometimes he would not. But really, it's just the two mics and the kick. The kick also, depending on the drummer and the beater versus, various circumstances, he would kind of switch that up a little bit. But it's really just these three microphones that was the essence of what he did. So if you found this helpful today, go ahead, subscribe to my channel. I'd love to be talking with you, connecting with you every Tuesday. This is a weekly video show. Also, hop on over to creativesoundlab.tv. You can join my mailing list. I do not spam you. I don't send you anything more than once a week. And I want to be throwing you stuff like downloadable tutorials, PDFs, and lessons that I don't give out on YouTube because that's just kind of for the masses and stuff. But this is my inner sanctum of people that I communicate with. So I'll see you there.
Yeah.